The cup that was already full. The day does not begin loudly, it begins quietly, almost gently, but the mind is already racing. Before the eyes fully open, thoughts line up like people waiting outside a closed door. What must be done? What went wrong yesterday? What might go wrong today? Even before the body moves, the mind is already tired. You sit up and the world slowly comes into focus. Light slips through the window. Somewhere outside, life is already moving forward without waiting for you. Inside, there is a heaviness that is hard to explain, not sharp pain, not sadness exactly, but a constant pressure, like carrying a glass filled so close to the edge that every small movement risks spilling something. Zen teachings often begin with very ordinary moments because truth hides there easily. There is an old story about a student who travels far to meet a Zen master. The student is desperate, not for knowledge, but for relief. He speaks without stopping, explaining his anxiety, his fears, his confusion about life. The master listens without interruption. Then he pours tea into the student's cup. The tea rises, reaches the brim, and spills over. Still, the master keeps pouring. Finally, the student cannot stay silent. "Master, the cup is full. It cannot hold any more." The master looks up calmly and says, "You are the same, full already. How can I give you peace when there is no space for it?" This story does not accuse, it does not insult, it simply points. In Buddhist thought, suffering often comes not from what happens to us, but from what we continuously carry. Old disappointments, future worries, the need to control outcomes, the habit of replaying moments that cannot be changed. All of it fills the inner cup slowly, quietly, until we forget what an empty cup feels like. The teaching here is subtle but powerful. Peace is not something to be added. It is something that appears when unnecessary weight is seen clearly, not removed forcefully, just seen. When you notice your own mind, you may realize how rarely it rests. Even during calm moments, it plans, compares, judges. This constant movement feels normal, so normal that we stop questioning it. Yet, Zen gently asks, what if clarity begins by noticing how crowded the inner space has become? Nothing needs to be fixed right now. No answers are required, just awareness. As this understanding settles, another realization begins to form. If the mind is full because it keeps resisting life, what happens when resistance softens? What happens when, instead of fighting movement, we learn to flow with it? The next teaching does not sit still like a cup. It moves, quietly, steadily, like water finding its way forward. And it begins at the edge of a river. The river that does not argue. The river is already moving when you arrive. No announcement, no effort, just motion, continuous, patient, unavoidable. Water glides around stones, slips past fallen branches, reshapes the land without raising its voice. You stand there for a while, watching it, and something inside you slows down without being told to. After understanding that the inner cup is full, a natural question appears. Why does the mind fill itself so easily? Buddhist teaching answers quietly, because the mind argues with reality. We resist what is happening. We want yesterday back or tomorrow to hurry up. We label moments as mistakes or threats. Each resistance is small, almost invisible, but together they create tension that never truly rests. Zen masters often point to rivers because water does not fight obstacles. When a rock blocks its path, the river does not complain, panic, or turn bitter. It simply flows around it. Over time, the rock changes shape, not through force, but through consistency. Standing near the river, you may notice how different this is from the human mind. When life places a stone in our path, a delay, a loss, an unexpected change, we tense up immediately. The body tightens, thoughts harden. Energy drains not because of the obstacle itself, but because of the inner argument against it. One Buddhist teaching says, Pain is unavoidable, but resistance multiplies it. This does not mean passivity. It means understanding the difference between movement and struggle. The river moves with purpose, yet it never wastes energy demanding that the rock be different. As you watch the water, you begin to feel the teaching rather than understand it intellectually. Peace, in this sense, is not a still surface. It is a flexible depth. The river is never calm on top, yet underneath it is always steady. You begin to ask yourself, what if inner stability does not mean controlling life, but responding to it without inner conflict? What if peace is not found by forcing calm, but by allowing movement without resistance? This insight settles slowly, like sediment sinking to the riverbed. And yet, another challenge appears. Even if we stop arguing with situations, emotions still arrive uninvited. Anger, fear, sadness, joy. They enter the mind like unexpected guests. The next teaching does not ask us to stop emotions. It asks us to learn how to host them. And that teaching begins at a place called the guest house. The guest house of passing emotions. The house is quiet, but the door never stops opening. One moment, calm enters and sits gently in the corner. Soon after, worry follows, pacing the room. Then irritation arrives without knocking. Later, sadness steps in, heavy and slow, and joy may pass through briefly like sunlight before evening. You do not invite them, yet they come all the same. After learning from the river, a deeper realization emerges. Even when we stop resisting situations, the inner world remains alive with emotion, and this often confuses us. We believe peace means feeling good all the time. When uncomfortable emotions appear, we assume something has gone wrong. Zen Buddhism offers a different understanding. There is a famous teaching that describes the mind as a guest house. Every emotion, every thought is a visitor. Some stay longer than expected. Some arrive in groups. Some are difficult to look at. Yet the house itself remains. Most suffering begins when we forget this distinction. We identify with the guests. Anger says, "I am here," and we respond, "I am angry." Fear whispers, "I will not leave," and we believe it. In that moment, the guest becomes the owner, but the teaching gently suggests another way. What comes and goes cannot be who you are. As you sit with this idea, memories surface. Times when an emotion felt permanent, yet somehow passed. Moments when pain felt endless, yet softened. The guests always leave, even when they promise not to. This does not mean suppressing emotions or pretending they are not there. Zen does not ask for denial. It asks for awareness without attachment. When anger enters, notice its temperature. When sadness arrives, feel its weight. Let them be seen fully, without giving them authority over the house. There is something deeply stabilizing about this. The mind no longer panics when emotions rise. It learns that feeling deeply does not mean losing balance. The house becomes strong not because it rejects guests, but because it knows itself as the space that holds them. As this understanding deepens, another layer of insight begins to appear. If emotions pass and situations flow, then what about the self that experiences it all? Is it as solid and unchanging as we believe? The next teaching does not answer this directly. Instead, it asks us to look at something that seems unmovable. A mountain. And what it teaches may surprise you. The mountain that learns to bend. From a distance, the mountain appears absolute, silent, immovable, unchanging. It stands through storms, seasons, and centuries, asking nothing from the world around it. When people speak of inner strength, they often imagine becoming like this, solid, unshaken, untouched by what comes and goes. But when you come closer, another truth reveals itself. The mountain is not rigid. Wind shapes it. Rain slowly carves its surface. Snow rests upon it, then melts away. Trees grow from its sides and eventually fall. Even the hardest stone is quietly transformed by time. The mountain endures not because it resists change, but because it allows it. After understanding emotions as passing guests, Zen introduces a deeper teaching. True stability is not stiffness, it is adaptability. Many of us try to protect ourselves by becoming mentally rigid. We form strong identities, fixed opinions, and firm expectations. We believe this will keep us safe. Yet, rigidity cracks under pressure. When life does not match the image we cling to, suffering sharpens. The mountain shows another way. It holds its shape, yet yields where needed. It does not collapse under weather, but it also does not argue with it. In Buddhist thought, this points to the nature of the self. We think of ourselves as fixed. This is who I am. This is how life should be. But the self, like the mountain, is a living process. When we stop defending a solid image of who we must be, something relaxes inside. The pressure to constantly maintain an identity begins to soften. You may notice moments when this happens naturally, when you stop trying to be strong and strength appears, when you allow uncertainty and clarity follows. Like the mountain, you remain present, yet flexible. This teaching does not ask you to disappear or become passive. It asks you to loosen the grip on rigidity, to let life shape you without breaking you. As this realization settles, a quiet question forms. If the self is not as fixed as we thought, and peace is already present beneath movement, then where is it truly found? The final teaching does not point outward anymore. It points inward, to a place you have never actually left, and that is where the journey completes itself. The quiet home you never left. There is a moment, often unnoticed, when the search grows tired. Not because all questions are answered, but because something deeper understands that chasing peace has always been exhausting. After the cup, the river, the guest house, and the mountain, the mind begins to sense a quiet pattern. Everything that caused disturbance was moving, changing, arriving, and leaving. Yet something was always there to witness it. Zen Buddhism points gently to this final teaching. Peace is not a destination. It is the ground beneath every experience. When you sit quietly and stop adjusting the moment, even briefly, you may notice it. A stillness that does not depend on silence, an ease that exists even when thoughts appear. This is not an emotional high. It is simpler than that. Like coming home after a long journey and realizing the door was never locked. This home is not a place or a personality. It is awareness itself, the part of you that noticed the cup was full, watched the river flow, welcomed emotions as guests, and learned flexibility from the mountain. It was never disturbed, even when the surface felt chaotic. Most suffering comes from forgetting this, from believing we must become peaceful someday, somewhere else. Zen quietly smiles at this idea. The teachings were never meant to build something new. They were meant to remove what blocks the view. When you stop trying to hold life still, peace appears. When you stop identifying with every thought, space opens. When you stop searching outward, the inward becomes obvious. Nothing dramatic happens, no fireworks, no final answers. Just a deep sense of returning to something familiar, something that was patiently waiting beneath every experience. And perhaps that is the most stabilizing insight of all. Life will continue to move. Emotions will still visit. Challenges will rise and fall like waves. But now there is an understanding that cannot be shaken easily. You were never truly lost. You were only looking away. And in this quiet recognition, the journey ends. Not with an ending, but with a beginning that was always here.